clients that are hypersensitive to data privatization and AI accuracy, how can we convince our stakeholders or potential clients that they can be more confident in using AI as a tool? And this is one that I know that Stephen will have strong opinions on, because he's done a lot of this type of stuff because of the operationalization and the enablement. So Stephen, what are your thoughts there?
Every one of these tools, like, AI tools, carries an amount of risk on it. And in shipping AI and developing AI, you always have to be cognizant about, the risk of it being wrong, the risk of it being exploited, the risk of, all these legal, especially now global legal ramifications of using this stuff. Is it worth it? And I think it's convincing stakeholders that they can be more confident. There's, developing a really good framework of benefit and risk. There's a lot of things, like the AI part of this is easy, I think. Developing an AI chatbot based on your documents in your corporation, super easy. Deploying that to internal or even external users, that's the super hard part. That's really getting figured out. Just an example, in terms of an HR bot at your company. There's a lot of things, again, HR bot, just put in your employee handbook. People can ask questions about your employee policies, easy. But if someone types in help, my boss is bullying me, or something like that, there are legal implications of that. That has to be logged, that has to be actually reported up. So you have to build that kind of thing in. But if someone else comes in and says hey, I'm pregnant, what are the maternity leave policies of that? That can never be logged. That can never be so balancing all this kind of stuff, legal and ethical frameworks around using AI, both internally and externally, is the super hard part, I think, of developing and deploying these things.
Got it. I was going to ask Reed, where's my question here? From the perspective of a company that builds tools, and and you've been on conversations with prospects around Generator, what are the biggest hurdles you've seen customers face when trying to implement an AI solution? Is it technical? Is it data related? Is it something else? Is it procurement? Where do you think the hurdles are coming from?
Yeah, a lot of it has been around data, keeping the data in-house. Basically, there's been some sales discussions around making sure that they can run it on their end, because they're going to put all of their important data in this product, and then they're asking questions about how does the model you're talking with store data. A lot of large language model providers have a professional mode, or whatever they call it, where they don't use the incoming data to train their own models. Obviously, that's critical when you're dealing with important information. But the technically most interesting part, and by most interesting, I mean usually very frustrating, is how to test this stuff. I was talking earlier around fuzzy inputs and outputs, or fuzzy inputs and discrete outputs. If your outputs are also fuzzy, how do you, for example, in Generator, if I give it a PDF, how do I assess the quality of the summary? We've done some internal attempts at rubrics about what that would look like. It needs to be this many sentences, and there's some element of reader qualitative analysis. But when you're working with a black box with whatever the latest number of parameters, 4 billion little knobs inside that you can't read or turn, and also no one knows what the knobs do, it's super difficult to be confident that the inputs you're testing are representative of the inputs that will happen in production. A lot more different than, say, a function that takes 10 numbers. That's a discrete matrix that you can test. You can't really test every possible string. So I think both the technical feasibility of that kind of testing, and also just the human factor of feeling comfortable with that. I think some of these questions reflect that, of how can I trust the output? It's hard to get a statistically confident measure of reliability, I guess. So from what I've seen, that's been one of the more interesting challenges, and we've been having that for a couple of years working on Generator.
Yeah, I'll toss that to Megan a little bit, because I know she's been doing some stuff around trust and accuracy and defensibility of instructional content and those types of things. So Megan, do you want to weigh in on that? There are a lot of these questions do kind of boil down to, how do I trust this thing that I have to trust?
Yeah, and it's similar to questions we've had before we were using AI tools for some of this, right? How do I keep data private? How do I make sure that I trust that whatever comes out of the instructional design team is accurate, right? Or whatever comes out as learning content is accurate. So our historic solutions to that, until Reed and Stephen and friends figure out automated solutions, our historic solutions to that has been to have a human in the loop and subject matter experts and lawyers. And if this comes out sounding funny, you might want to check it. And that's a short-term answer. I don't think that'll be our answer for everybody and for all time. But for now, a lot of that is short-term and gets to that AI literacy, right? What should your expectations of your tools be? And that'll be different at every organization, right? What are your expectations? We even at Torrance Learning, we have a suite of GPTs that do a variety of things, and we name them based on our expectations of their capabilities. So we have an intern. You ought to check the intern's work pretty carefully, right? We have a partner that you can expect is like a colleague, right, in its capabilities. Do I check my colleague's work? It depends on whether or not it's high stakes, right? And then I have an advisor, and our advisors are very tightly wrapped, and we have high expectations of our advisors that they know, I'm making air quotes, know more than we do. And so we're signaling to our team what their expectations should be. Whenever I encounter, though, a leader who is concerned about privacy and accuracy, I want to dig into that a little bit, because they may not be wrong. Right? Just because they're concerned about it doesn't mean they're wrong. And just because they're slow to adopt doesn't mean that that's a maladaptive approach given their situation. And so we're often looking, and heck, we did this in the XAPI cohort in 2015, where, some teams were like, wow, we work in I remember there was a team that was, that Carla Torgerson led, that was working at a hospital. And you know what? They didn't collect data on learning that had anything to do with patient care. Their first examples was time management. They started simple. And they built trust and capability, and the team built skills and capability before moving on to more challenging topics.